Good evening. I'm going to tie a fly tonight for my wife. So she doesn't fly fish, but she will try one day. But today's her birthday, and her favorite color is a form of blue. And I've got some feathers that I've had for quite a while that are blue, and so I thought I would tie her kind of woolly booger pattern that I saw on McFly tying or McFly fishing. He tied a fly that was a soft hackle woolly bugger pattern. I think it was him, pretty sure. Anyway, I'm going to do the same thing with a soft hackle, but it's a blue feather. I'll get this switched around. Here are the feathers. So I'm using, I got, this was one cape, partial cape from a kind of a grab bag fly tying pack I got from Bass Pro when I first started fly tying, actually. Or it may have not even been Bass Pro. It might have been, I think it was Cabela's, actually, in Kyle. So I've got that, and I've got my black thread, and of course standard eagle claw hook, and I'm using the large size here for this one. I've already depressed the barbs on the top and here on the point, and so I'll go ahead and get started tying. Okay. So like with almost any fly you tie, start with covering the hook with a layer of thread. Makes the hook shank rough if it's smooth. If you're hearing a noise in the background, we're washing clothes. It's the washing machine running. And also Paige doesn't know I'm tying a fly, so she might pop in and talk. And that's okay, because I love her. Alright, so pretty simple. So typically when you tie a woolly bugger, you start with a marabou tail, and marabou actually ends up being kind of like this part of the feather, super fluffy, and it makes good motion in the water. And then you use a typical hackle, but we're going to use a different kind of hackle today on this one. Hopefully these work out the way that they did on the other video that I watched, and if not, we'll just have an interesting looking fly and see how it turns out. So this this cape actually has these feathers here that are not as firm, I guess. And actually, I saw these earlier that I thought I would use because they have more blue. So these have a lot of black on the end, and these are less black. So I think I'm going to use those just for today's fly. So I'll just pull those out. And these capes are a little bit oily, kind of. I don't know if that has to do with the dyeing process or if it's just the way they are, but they tend to clean up a little more once they get in the water. I'm not too worried about that. So I'm just going to run my thread up to where the hook, to the barb of the hook there. That little guy out of there. So these should do fine. I'm going to make these so that these kind of have a curve to them. Dropped it. They have a curve to them on their own. So I think I'm going to put those so that they face away from each other. The curves. Like that. Just give another level of motion. I'm just going to run them on either side of this hook shank, like that. And I want to try to keep that on top of the hook. See, I've got some good bit of wiggle to that, even not in the water. Okay. Just get a couple of layers of thread on top of that feather so that it's down a little bit. And then take out these little pieces. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to take these feathers like this. I'm going to grab the tip of the feather and drag my thumb along them so they splay out like that, just like this. So these two are good examples. I'm going to use probably 4 or 5 feathers on this, just because the part that you're wrapping with is not very long. So there's about 4 to start with. And then I'm going to take this fluffy part here, which can be saved and used later for something else, but I'm going to strip that off of the feather. Okay. So now I'll take this, strip it back this way, and I'm going to tie in that point. I'm going to just lay it here, and I want this to lay back when it ties in. So I'm going to tie it in like that. And just knock that down onto the hook shank, and we'll see how far up this wraps. With this, just to get some better grip, I'll use my Hackle pliers. Then I'm just going to wrap around. And as I'm wrapping this around, I'm going to draw these back to the back of the hook. I'm just going to keep wrapping it until I get to the end of the barbs on the hook. On the feather, sorry. Okay, I'll snip this off. And I'll just take the next one. Do the same thing here. Strip off these fluffy parts. Tie this in. So one thing I can already tell about these feathers compared to the ones I saw in the video is that these feathers are not as soft as the soft hackles that he was using. So I'll just keep wrapping them, covering up the hook. See how we do. I think I might get 2 more feathers on here after this one. Okay. Okay, so that finishes that feather. So today's Paige's birthday. I won't say which one. I will say that many moons ago, before we started dating, it was on her birthday, her 19th birthday, when I first met her parents. And that was just a few months before we started dating. Or a couple of months before we started dating, actually. Oh, I need to tie in some flash. I forgot. So, yeah, we had just finished a year of school. It was her first year at Texas State. And for me, it was my first year, or I was about to graduate. I had just graduated. Something like that. Anyway. Sorry, I'm trying to get this to lay the right way and talk at the same time, and it's hard. So this should have been tied in at the tail, but it wasn't. That's okay, because it's still going to be covered up with some feathers. And I'm just going to draw this back and cut it off about the length of the tail. Then I'll separate these strands so they don't look like a piece of rope. I think they all ended up on the same side somehow. Well, I'll have to fix that too. There, that's good. That's pretty good. I think Paige must have been laughing at the 9th birthday comment. So that was kind of significant because I was already 29, and it was her 19th birthday. So I think her brother and her parents might have been a little bit reluctant, but it turned out all right. This fly is not turning out quite as fluffy as the one that I saw, like I said before, but it's fine. It'll still have some good action in the water. Yeah, they were a little bit protective, I guess. So I'm glad to be making this fly because I've had these feathers for a long time and I never use blue, because the places that I fished up until now don't have a lot of blue in them or in the bait that they eat. But with a fly like this, you just never know what's going to eat it, so, or what they're going to be attracted to. So this one, you see it's going past the eye here, so I'm going to go in and snip this off. Get a little trim. Okay. I think I might get one more after this one. I think when I tie this one again, I will strip off the barbs on one, all the way down one side of the feather, so that the shank, or the quill of the feather, actually lays down right against the hook instead of having all these extra barbs going everywhere. I think it works. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to do one more feather here. Make it a little bit larger one, so I get a little more stand up on this one. I always like to make the front of the woolly booger flare out a little more, as it kind of is now, but even more so. So got that last feather all the way up to the eye. Take a few wraps to get it locked down. Go ahead and snip it here. Another thing that you often do with a woolly booger is you, after you tie in the tail, you go in and tie a piece of wire, and you leave it there, and you wrap all these things around, and then after that you go back to your wire and you wrap it through on top of the feathers, and it helps strengthen those so they don't break on you. Alright, so what I'm going to do is pull these back so they kind of lay over the feather, over the hook like that, and then I'm just going to take this and pulling back on the barbs of the feathers. I'm just going to keep wrapping this and build a head. Got a little bit of a quill sticking out there. Try to bind that in as well. Another thing that I usually do that I didn't do on this one, on a woolly booger, I usually make it kind of a bead head, and I put bead chain eyes on it, because often you want to have weight on the front so it'll swim a little bit and dive down. So I'm just trying to make careful turns here to try to build a head. Just want it to be neat. But one thing about flies that I tie, especially if I use black, sometimes I'll use black fingernail polish to finish them. So if I've got anything sticking up like that, I can just cover it up with paint. But this time I think I'm just gonna be careful to cover all that up. I think that'll do right there. So I'll go ahead and give this a half hitch, and then I'll give it a whip finish. Okay. So that's basically the finished fly. Just going to take some head cement or fingernail polish, whatever you want to call it. It's basically the same thing. You can give that a little bit of gloss there. And that'll soak into the thread some. And when it dries, it'll keep it from coming untied. And like I've said before, I've got flies that I tied when I first started tying, and I used fingernail polish, and whenever I go to reuse the hooks, maybe it's a fly that I don't use anymore, when I go to reuse the hook, I have to really cut off all the feathers and all the string, because it's so well kept. You know, it hardens and it just doesn't give up. So the flash, when I tied it in, kind of ended up on both sides of the hook here, but there's the rest. There it is. Okay, so I've got I'll show you here, so you can see I've got the flash on both sides. So the way that this flash is doing, I don't know if you can see this, but this flash is made out of plastic or nylon or whatever, but when they make it, it kind of twists, and so they come in these packs, and the pack that I had got kind of mixed up and crazy, so I decided I was going to get a comb and kind of brush it out. Well, when I brushed it out, it kind of got nasty, and actually all the twists of all the individual pieces actually twisted together and almost made it kind of like a rope, so I had to pick it out. But you know, once you get it in the water and you fish it a little bit, all that stuff gets lined up and gets fluffed up and gets looking pretty again. So, or if it's a good fly, the fish start destroying it and it doesn't ever look pretty. It looks all shredded. So I'm just going to take my repurposed beard brush. I'll fluff this up some this way. Just make sure I got the barbs kind of going where I want them, and then I'll brush it back down. And that will do well. That actually kind of looks like a little squid, because you got the body here and the tentacles there, or jellyfish or something like that. So I don't know if fish eat jellyfish or if fish get stung by jellyfish and avoid them. Guess I should do some science lessons or something. Put a little bit more since I wiped some off of there. Get a little shine again. Okay, so again, this is for my wife for her birthday today. It's I'll just call it Paige's blue bugger. I think that'll do well. It's a good looking fly. So thanks for those that chimed in and watched, and thank you, McFly, YouTuber. So I post my videos on YouTube. If anybody wants to check these out, this is probably my number 55 video. So I do it on Facebook and record it, and then I put it on YouTube, and there we go. So go check it out. Quiet Man 28 is my YouTube channel. Got several different kinds of flies, some good ones, some questionably good ones, but it's fun nonetheless. So thanks for checking in, and happy birthday, Paige. I love you.